Well, hey guys, welcome back to what I call the leather room / office. And I spent a fair amount of time out here, not as much time as in the shop, of course, but this is where I build my knife sheaths for all the knives that I make, and package the product to ship it, keep the books, all the administrative nonsense that you have to do when you're self-employed because you are the chief everything officer, the CEO. So I'm making a sheath for this little knife right here. Sold it over the weekend, and cool little blade here. Nice contoured whitetail shed and leather stack handle, so very comfortable, nice secure grip. Nice pattern welded Damascus on there. The new logo minus the compass, which I did get that figured out. So you'll be seeing that on knives. Whatever knife I make next, actually. So, working on a sheath for this guy. I got a couple other items packaged, and you know, I got some oil on there now. I sharpen everything by hand on the stone here, strop it, you know, before it goes out, wrap it up, everything like that. So that's what I kind of do in here, and thought I would kind of chat with you guys a little bit. First day of 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. And it's a Monday, how fitting. So back to work. No rest for the wicked, and the righteous don't need any, as I've heard it. So I don't think that's quite in the Bible, but whatever. Little saying there. So I'm just going to cut this out. I already traced the pattern. Traced the pattern out from one of my many patterns that I've made over the years, making sheaths for all sorts of different sizes of different knives. But I had a couple things I wanted to chat about, kind of a year in review type deal, and just some thoughts. And you know, it'll be one of those videos. So if you're into making knives at all, and if you're into making knives to make money, or doing YouTube, or just interested in the business at all, I think there will be something for you in the video. I've got a couple of things that I wrote down, so stick around, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. I've got my one of my favorite coffee cups now. I forge stuff and I know things. My wife has been working on building this Etsy shop up, firecreekmercantile.etsy.com. She's usually running a sale on the shop there, so usually everything is on sale. First thing I wanted to talk about was testing your Mettle. Not metal as an M-E-T-A-L, but M-E-T-T-L-E. And that's sort of your resolve, your perseverance, your ability to meet challenges and press forward with optimism, I guess would be a way to describe it. Sort of a concept that I want to pull out when talking about that is the idea of the general business or scene of bladesmithing and blacksmithing. Is it in decline? And I really want to know what you guys have to think or have to say about that idea, because recently I was talking to a couple different people who don't know each other, but they both, during the conversation, mentioned a similar concept, and that was the idea that, as things tend to do, ebb and flow, and you know, you've got this up and down sort of when it comes to a lot of different things, but when it came to popularity of bladesmithing, blacksmithing, and so forth, and both of these people were of the opinion that we're kind of going into an ebbing of popularity with that whole genre, whether it's a hobby or just an area of interest. So I want to know what you guys think. I think it's pretty common knowledge that in the last decade to, I would say certainly the last decade maybe 15 years, we saw a huge uptick in interest in bladesmithing in particular, and blacksmithing in general, I think. And, you know, of course, it has a lot to do with things like the show Forged in Fire and, you know, in YouTube as well. You know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, YouTube was hardly a thing, and there wasn't, you know, anything even remotely close to the kind of resources, both good and bad, that you can find on YouTube when it comes to, oh, got blades, hold on, gotta go quench some blades. Guess I'll bring y'all with me. Is there a decline in interest, or I don't know, just general participation in bladesmithing in general? And I'm asking you guys because I honestly haven't really seen it. I think overall we're seeing some softening of the market in a lot of ways, as you might imagine with inflation. And maybe it's that people don't have as much disposable income for hobbies and things like that. I'm sure that's the case for some people. I know it's not for others. And in general, I think we're in pretty good shape. But yeah, it's for some people, it's going to be harder to pursue a hobby. It's going to be harder to spend time and money on that, just because the cost of living has gone up for everybody. I mean, if you're not feeling it, good on you. I mean, that's awesome. If you're in a position where it might be annoying, but you know, not really a big deal, then that's awesome. A lot of people I know that that's you know, not really the case. We're fine. We've been all right, but we've definitely, you know, over the last several years, my income has grown as I've continued to work at the business. You know, been doing this for full-time for over 6 years now. So I've been trying to build a business for over 6 years, or have been. And, you know, so the income has grown steadily, you know, not massively or in huge spikes, but it hasn't, you know, you don't really notice it because when the cost of groceries goes up and you have a family to feed, you know, so we're doing fine, but you know, we're not, like if I was able to make this, you know, the wage I'm making now 5 years ago, man, we would have been feeling a lot better about things. But we're provided for, everything is going fine, and it is what it is. But maybe that's got something to do with it. So chime in. Let me know what your opinion is on that. You know, I think there's going to be some people that, well, I think it's like with anything else. If you have an interest, or you think you might have an interest in a hobby or a pursuit, and you start to look into it, and maybe you know, purchase some equipment, you purchase a few things to get into it, and then realize that it's not as something that you really wanted to be doing as much as you thought it was initially. And if there's any little, not excuse, but if there's any little reason to not pursue it any further, like maybe a little less income or a little less buying power, and you have to spend money on normal stuff, then I could see that. So I think maybe there's some of that going on. But overall, I can't say that I've personally seen that on a large scale. I would say that the types of sales that I've experienced this year during the holiday shopping season are less than last year. But it's kind of hard to gauge that too, because this year I had more product available, but I don't know that I necessarily had the normal stuff that people like to buy this time of year. People like to buy kitchen knives for Christmas, and I didn't really have kitchen knives available this year. So I'm going to remedy that next year, hopefully. But that's just a little example of how within the micro economy that you operate in, you have to know that inside and out. And of course, it's affected by the larger economy, but your specific clientele base is really important. So, you know, knowing how that operates, and I didn't have that available this year, and I'm pretty certain that there would have been a number of people that would have availed themselves to that had I focused on that this year. What I tried to do overall was, you know, I've had multiple requests for example, the hammers. You know, I had multiple requests for hammers, and I finally got around to doing it. Same with, you know, pack axes or hatchets or a particular knife model that I make. And so I try to do that, and you know, I'm always behind, it feels like. And then I'm also trying to maintain just a good stock of general knives and axes and hatchets and stuff for the everyday purchases and stuff too. And so those are constantly selling, and you know, it's a good problem to have, but you're trying to always keep up with that. And so that's what I was doing, and I didn't really get around to making kitchen knives or chef's knives, you know, before the holiday gift buying season. So, you know, could have done that a little bit better. But that's only a little bit that I've seen. And then I guess when it comes to YouTube, I don't know. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with YouTube. The reason I keep doing it, well, one thing, I like doing it, but it shows you guys what I'm building, and a lot of you are building stuff yourself, and there's, you know, some informational, educational aspects to that, and so a lot of you guys watch for that. And then also I do continually get people purchasing my knives they find me because of the YouTube channel. So it's kind of my advertising wing, I call it, of the business in a way. I don't do any other social media. I don't really have the time, and I don't have the inclination, especially in this day and age, for any of that. So YouTube is it when it comes to that form of advertisement, if you will. And so I get to show you guys what I do. And so if somebody is interested in purchasing a knife, they can see what actually goes into it. And so that's pretty cool. So for those reasons, and it continues to be a integral part of the business, and it provides a little bit of income. That's an ongoing enigma, I guess, for a lot of people. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at, and I wouldn't say that I've noticed any real downturn personally. I think I would say that I've noticed a little more discrimination, more discriminating buyers, perhaps, when it comes to customers. And then I also have a cadre of really awesome returning clients, and if you're one of them, you know who you are. Thank you very much for supporting Fire Creek Forge, and you guys are sort of an elite sort of group level that it doesn't really, a lot of what I'm talking about here doesn't necessarily apply to you. And so if you're one of those people, much appreciated, and you know who you are. So that's been awesome as well throughout the last multiple years. I definitely saw it in 2023. So I want to know your guys' thoughts, whether you're a hobbyist selling some knives on the side, or you're trying to make a go of it, or you know people in different bladesmithing or blacksmithing or knife making related industries. Let me know what you've seen or what you've heard, because I'm interested. So to sum that idea up, I think 2024, just as in every other year, it's going to be a year where your metal is tested. And if you're making knives you're going to keep making knives if you love it. You know, worst case scenario, you know, maybe you have to scale back in some form or fashion. But I think it really comes down to, you know, if you're doing something you love, you'd be doing it anyway. And so, as with anything, times like these, those of us who have been doing it for this long, you know, I've spent, like I said, I've spent 6 years building this business up, and I feel like I've gotten to where, you know, we've weathered enough that, and built this up enough to where even if things get a little tighter, I think, you know, I'm pretty confident about where we're at, and then just understanding how to adjust to that. All right, so the second thing I wanted to talk about, and this kind of gets into the next 3 things that I'm going to talk about are like personal goals that I have, and maybe there'll be things for you to think about too, I don't know. But the second thing is face-to-face networking. Now, aside from doing a farmer's market for several years up in Idaho, which was a great venue actually, but aside from that, and since 2019 was the last year that we did that, since then, the entire business has been online. And with, you know, I do have some face-to-face sales and stuff like that, but overall, I'd have to say that personally, I've not been very good about that. And you know, I have different excuses, like being busy with family and kids and chores on the weekends and stuff, because I build knives and make videos too, you know, 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, depending on the day. And so going to a knife show to do more knife stuff is kind of like, it's not the kind of thing where you've worked your normal job. Oh, we're going to go to a knife show this weekend instead of work on my knife project that I've been, you know, it's not like that for me. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. But, you know, I'm kind of realizing that I'm missing out when it comes to face-to-face interaction, just learning from other people, you know, having connections and that kind of thing. Back in the day, before the internet, that's how you did it. You know, if you were a custom knife maker, you went to the shows. That's where your clientele, that's where your peers, you know, people to learn from were at. And, you know, with the dawn of the internet and YouTube and online commerce and stuff like that, you can, as I've been doing, not really go to any shows, not really interact that much at all face to face, and you know, you can build it up like that. And that's, in a lot of respects, that's really great, but in other respects, you know, I'm missing that. So this year I'm taking steps to remedy that. And one of those is I was able to contact an ABS mastersmith. That's a couple hours, a little less than a couple hours from me, and I'm gonna try to meet up with him. The next thing I'm gonna try to go to the to Blade Show Texas here this year in February, which is coming up pretty fast. I'm not gonna be an exhibitor; they're already full, but I am gonna go for at least a day and just, you know, see stuff and try to talk to people. And I'm sure I'll see some people there that I've learned from, and you know, maybe talk to them if I can, and just different stuff like that. So I'm going to try to do that this year. That's the plan, barring any unexpected events. So just zip over there and spend some time trying to meet people, and, you know, looking at other people's work, because you can learn a lot from that. So that's what I'm doing this year. I'm going to try to do better in the area of face-to-face networking with, not, you know, with clients, with other makers, just all of that. And I have limited time, but everybody has limited time, so I'm going to try to make more time for that. So the third thing I wanted to talk about, and this is another thing to think about, is adding value. So how can we add value to what we're doing every day? Obviously, you know, it's pretty simple. You get a piece of steel that's worth, I don't know, maybe $10, depending on what type of steel you're using and how big it is, whatever. Let's just say $10, right? So you buy a piece of steel for $10, you spend, let's say, 20 hours on it, and you turn it into a knife that's worth $500. You know, add some other handle material and stuff like that. So maybe your total cost is, let's say your total cost in the knife is $50, and you sell it for $400. Just random numbers, right? Well, you've added $350 of value to this chunk of steel and wood or whatever the handle material is. And that is, so how do you calculate that, or how do you measure that? Like, what is that? Well, that's your artistic ability and your personal input to that material, your time and energy, emotional energy that you're using to add value to this material. And that's what you're selling. You're not just selling, you can sell a piece of steel, but the markup on that is generally much less than the value that you add to the piece that you're building. So how can we continue to add to that value? Well, there's a lot of different things that add value, and they don't always necessarily have the same value to different people, right? So, for example, somebody might be excited that I was on Forged in Fire, and that connection with them adds value to my my knives for them. Somebody else who maybe they don't even know that I was on Forged in Fire adds no value for them, even if they knew. And so that's an example. You can pick it. I just use that because that's something I can think of. There's different things. Maybe the fact that a knife maker used to be a cowboy, and the experience they have in working cattle and riding the range and all that kind of stuff that they bring to their craft, to their art, and that adds value for their client base. So it could be any number of things. So the question is, how can you get better every day at adding value to your product? Another couple thoughts might be, maybe you, as prices continue to rise, for example, on everything else, maybe you figure out how to do things, and I'm working on some of this stuff, how to do things a little more efficiently on the same knife or the same product you're making, and leave your prices the same, for the next couple of years or whatever. And it's essentially like lowering your prices, frankly, because everything's going up for you, but you figured out how to make the same quality product in less time, which is, lowers the expenses on your end, and it adds value on the consumer's end, on the client's end. So that's another example. One thing that I am gonna, more blades, hold on. Okay, so anyway, one of the things that I'm gonna be doing or pursuing this year to add value to my knives and my product and my business is to, at the very least, become prepared to take my journeyman level test with the American Bladesmith Society. The reason I'm not saying that I'm going to do it this year is because I don't know for sure if I'm going to. It's going to kind of depend on when I can schedule a performance test. If I can do that, I would actually kind of have to do that like right now, and then to be ready for the second part of the test, which is building 5 immaculate knives and having them judged by a panel of mastersmiths. And that has to be done in June, except for there are some other options of when you can do that, or when and where. I don't know what those are exactly. My point is I need to have some time, plenty of time to build those knives, and 6 months is like a minimum in my mind. So I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm going to connect with some people who can critique my work, mastersmiths who can critique my work and look at it and tell me, okay, you need to work on this, this needs to be better. Because I want to go into this with confidence, knowing that what I'm presenting has already been vetted by people who know what they're talking about. So I've got preparation to do. And if that can happen very quickly, then it's possible I might actually pursue that this year, the actual testing. But at this point, I'm not really confident of that. Maybe you're not trying to go after a journeyman smith rating, but the same thing can apply. Get your work in front of other people who are competent and, preferably have a higher skill level than you. You look at people that you study what you want to become like. And so, like if you watch a video of Kyle Royer, his blades are above and beyond what you would need to pass the journeyman level rating. But if that's what you're focusing on and you're continually trying to improve your work, then maybe you'll reach the level you need to, just to, you know, that's how I think of my own work and myself. So, you know, get your work in front of people who are more experienced and more skilled than yourself, and that you can learn from, because there's always somebody for every one of us out there. There's a billion of those for me, and even the most skilled guys in the country, in the world, they have people they can learn from. And along those lines, the fourth thing I wanted to talk about is living now, not, you know, when we get to this point. So we were talking about moving this year. I did a video saying that we were going to move to Idaho this spring, and as you can probably tell, that didn't happen. Plans changed. We changed plans. But, you know, one of the things that I've had to try to grow through and learn is that there's never a perfect time to do stuff. And, you know, the journeyman smith rating is one of those things, you know. It's kind of like, well, after we move, it'll be a better time. You know, well, we didn't move. And there's never a perfect time to do most things. But what I'm kind of figuring out is that you do what you just do it now, and figure out how to do it now if at all possible. And worst case scenario, what's the worst case scenario? You started something, and maybe you have to, I don't really see a worst case scenario. Like, if you have to set something aside for a time because something is actually happening, that's different. But I'm talking about, like, well, when we finally get to this place, or when we finally have this amount of money, there are limitations, but in general, we can take the time, like I'm going to do. It's like, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to make the time to connect with some people, to focus on some specific areas, you know, and actually do it. And does it feel like the perfect time? No, but I'm tired of waiting for the perfect time. I guess that's my point. So maybe you're thinking about getting into bladesmithing. Is it the perfect time? No, it's not. There could be something better about your situation or your schedule or whatever, you know, but that's, the perfect time is never going to come, because even if the things that you're thinking about are resolved, there's going to be something else. That's just kind of how life goes. So live now. Do, like, we only have a limited amount of time, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. So if you want to pursue bladesmithing, if you want to pursue whatever it is, something of value, obviously. I'm not talking about squandering time on mindless pursuits that don't do anything to better yourself or anybody else. I'm not talking about that stuff. But when it comes to things of value that you want to pursue, you have an interest in, then there's never going to be a perfect time. And so just, you know, to whatever extent that you can, begin doing that now. Like, for example, I know that I can start serious preparation for my journeyman test this year, you know, this month, which is what I'm going to do. And I've already started to, but, you know, I may not take the test this year, and it's very possible that I won't. But if that has to wait till next year, at least I know, you know, I can do what I can do now, and I'm not going to put that off any longer. So live now, not, you know, when things are different or better or perfect or whatever, because that time is never going to come. That's kind of all I got, guys. Hopefully that was helpful to you in some form or fashion. Didn't put you to sleep too bad. I'm going to finish this sheath, and I've got one more trio of knives to quench here in a few minutes. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see what happens. Stay tuned.